Right, right, guys. So yes, thanks for joining us tonight on a Monday night on the One the Lot podcast. I'm Harry from Fan Owned United. This is the first podcast that I've hosted with Talking Devils. So very excited to be part of this pod. Um, and again, just to give you a bit of info about us, the Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. And today we've got two gents alongside me who are obviously hardcore fans. We've got Peter, who's a football-based writer in London, part of that core fan base originally from Ireland, and we've got Stephen, who's a platinum uh, season ticket holder at Old Trafford and been going for the last 25 years. So yeah, how are we doing, gents? All good?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
No
not too
worries.
bad. Thanks for having us on.
No worries, no worries at all. Just another point before we crack on as well. There's a podcast that comes on just after hours at 8:30, which is run by United Before Fergie. And that's going to be a really interesting one today because United legend Sammy McElroy is going to be joining the guys at United Before Fergie. So do definitely give it a watch if you are around. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. So I was lucky enough to be at the Forest Ground yesterday. I say lucky enough because anyone who has a season ticket knows how difficult it is to get a league ticket away with United. They're pretty much like gold dust. And that I guess is the first place to start. So, Stephen, what did you think overall on the performance?
I thought it was a good performance. We started well again, created a lot of chances. We came up against Keylor Navas, who is a top keeper. Obviously, his history with Madrid and PSG speaks for itself. I think we were linked with him at one point. So, to be a goalie linked to United obviously shows that you've got something about you. And he showed that yesterday. Without Navas in net, it could have been, 5 or 6 potentially. Some great saves, especially for those from Bruno. 3 notably, 1 in the first half, 2 in the second half, both from the similar kind of side in the second half. But yeah, I think we dominated really. Not too many chances given away. I think we were quite solid. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I thought, even though it was Forest, not to disrespect Forest, I thought yesterday could have been a bit of a banana skin. I mean, away from home, our form overall hasn't been great. Also, with the injury lists that we've got at the moment, the kind of first 11's looking a bit thin. So I think first and foremost, I was just glad that we picked up the 3 points. And it's kind of been typical United as well this year. When Newcastle and Spurs have been dropping points, we've not quite been able to capitalise, and we're still getting dragged in. Yeah, we're still getting dragged into this top 4 battle. So I think that was a massive bonus. But you spoke of obviously Navas. I mean, Peter, what did you think of Bruno and the kind of general midfield and how they all work together?
I think I saw a stat. The 17 games they've played together, they've won 15 and drawn twice. So it kind of shows when those 3 play, we're kind of set. And like I know in recent times, you have no Casemiro and we have had Varane and Martinez at the back. But I think yesterday kind of showed it's almost more important to have the first choice midfield and the first choice defence, because the fact like we didn't have De Gea to make a single save, Maguire and Lindelof weren't really tested. It just kind of shows like with Casemiro in front, you have the shields and you've control of the game. And yeah, like you said, like it had the potential to be a banana skin. And yeah, especially off the back of Sevilla, the 2-2 and so on, it didn't really feel like it was the team were affected at all by it. So that was a positive. And yeah, I thought it was like these are the kind of games like Forest away you should be winning 2-0. So I thought we just turned up to the professional job. And like you said, like it's been a theme of the last 3 games. Like I was actually at the Everton game last weekend and we should have beaten them about 6-0. They should have killed the tie against Sevilla and then the same again. So it kind of is a concern because like you're running the risk every single time of maybe conceding. But no, job well done. And as you said, like the amount of times, especially in the post-Fergie years, the amount of times we haven't capitalized on someone slipping up, we play on the Sunday and we throw it away. So yeah, you couldn't really complain with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think yesterday kind of goes to show as well the importance of Casemiro, because when he's not been in the team and we have had a kind of first string defense and other players available around him like Bruno, Sabitzer, etc. He kind of brings the glue, and also on top of that, I think he brings a sense of calm to the rest of the team, that he'll take charge, he'll sit just in front of the centre backs. I think gives them a little bit more comfort, and yeah, it doesn't really bring. So I think he's a massive plus to have. Almost a double-edged sword that we didn't have him for so long, but at least he's fresh now, right?
Yeah.
Going into the next few games, so hopefully he just doesn't pick up any injuries again. But I mean, for me personally, I would say Bruno was exceptional yesterday. I don't think there was much more he could do. I mean, like you mentioned, Peter, it was just Navas that had a great day. I was really impressed with Anthony because his kind of play going forward, he was taking on players, not kind of stopping on the ball. He was really creative, and obviously for the second goal, it was all his work that he put in. And also, especially, I think Lindelof was quite solid at the back, put in some pretty good sliding challenges, and was quite strong. I mean, what about you guys? Was there anyone else that you thought was particularly strong? Maybe start with Stephen. What did you think?
Yeah, I was impressed, with Eriksen. I doubt he's 100% fit. He didn't play like he was unfit. He played like he was 100%. A last minute sub in. Obviously, Sabitzer was supposed to play. Went off with a groin injury, which adds to the injury list, which isn't great. But Eriksen coming in to give the performance that he did. As Peter brought up, the midfield 3 play so well together, and it actually didn't seem like they'd played a part for the last few months. And obviously Eriksen has been missing for that amount of time, but he fit in straight away so well. So yeah, that midfield 3 controlling the whole flow of the game. I actually, to touch on Bruno again, I've been a bit of not the biggest fan of him this season at some points when he's further forward. Mostly because he loses the ball quite a lot when he tries to bring out those Hollywood passes. But recently he's been playing a lot deeper. Maybe he's learning that he needs to keep the ball, simple, keep the ball in possession, rotate, recycle, and play a little bit less Hollywood passes. But he seems to have such an influence on the games from deep that he can almost be playing as that number 8 rather than the 10. Like he has been, early on in the season when he was playing about 5 yards away from Ronaldo. I just didn't like that at all. I'd rather him drop deep, get the ball, dictate, which is, what he did really well yesterday with Eriksen.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of that. Like even the Eriksen
game.
Exactly.
And I think,
Eriksen, he mentioned in the interview after, like he didn't even know. He was told that it was going to be him or Fred coming in. So I think it kind of shows with the midfield, like they're all just really smart players. Like they don't lose their heads. And I think, Bruno does lose his head at times, but when he's next to Eriksen and Casemiro, I think they just dovetail nicely. And I think having Ericsson with Bruno, it just means like he doesn't have to make all the Hollywood passes. He doesn't need to do everything. I think Ericsson just gives him a lot of help. And if you think back in his previous seasons, it was him with McFred behind, like, so he had to do everything. Whereas now I think he knows, like, well, Casemiro can play a pass.
Yeah.
When Martinez has played, he can play a pass. There's more options. There's more people who can do different things. But yeah, I thought they were really good.
Yeah.
And I actually thought Martial, like, probably the most frustrating player in United's recent history. But like, when he's on it, he's top. He's top. I wouldn't say he's a top player. He's a top talent because he's never really shown it over a consistent period. But it kind of feels like he definitely knows, like, it's his last. It's like his 8th last chance at this point. But it feels like if I don't play well, I'm gone. And he does that a lot.
He's got more lives than a cat, Peter.
I know, he's 9
He's
lives.
got more lives than a cat on Martial.
He's 9 lives. Yeah, he's on 8 seasons.
Yeah, no, you put out on that. That's actually really valid on Martial. It's so frustrating, like you said. I mean, when he came in, the good 5-6 years ago now, they scored that goal against Liverpool. Still remember that, Old Trafford, and everyone thought, he was going to set the Premier League alight. And, just like everyone does, they think, it's like liken them to like a potential Thierry Henry, whatever it is. But I just think, I think his time is done now, to be honest. Me personally, just it's purely because unless he has amazing end of season and saves our season, or wins us the FA Cup or something like that, he's just too injury prone, and his just general mood he just doesn't seem as if he wants to play that often. He doesn't seem too happy most of the time. So I think his days are numbered. I don't even know. I don't know if you guys know if he's still in contract. I don't think he's out of contract in the start.
No, I think he's still in contract for a couple of years. But I agree. Yeah, I think the only way he stays at the end of the season is if he manages to play in pretty much every game to a top standard, scoring goals, winning games, and then that'll earn him another season. And then if he stays fit for the whole season, then brilliant. He can continue his United career. But as you say, so unreliable. There's no point having a player who doesn't play. There's no point. So even if he did tear it up for the next 6 weeks, I think it'd be like, that's a nice way for your United career to end, and we'll just move on. Because I was a fully fledged member of Martial FC, whatever that was. But he has the injuries and the mentality, I think, go hand in hand. Like, I don't think players get, bar Varane, who is just extremely delicate. I don't think you get that many muscle strains and little niggles here and there. If he it has to be part of what he's doing when he's away from the training ground. Like, his personal life is in disarray all the time. Maybe he's not looking after himself as well as he can. And I think it's about time, like Ten Hag seems the guy's going to be like that. It's about time United started getting ruthless. Like, he's been at the club for 8 seasons. Like, that's his man. Like, I was saying to someone recently, like, Schmeichel was at United for 8 seasons. Like, so if you're at United for 8 seasons, you should be like a club legend, not just kind of like, he was out on loan at Sevilla last season. And I think another point on Martial is it'd be great if you were like, you can be like a squad member, like, and we'll buy like an Osimhen or Harry Kane in the summer. But if you what history shows, like, anytime we bought any other striker, he kind of packed down tools. Like, Zlatan came, albeit his number was taken off him, down tools. Lukaku, Sanchez, Ronaldo, Cavani. It's never been. He really needs the love and the kind of like, I'm your guy, and that'd be great. But you can't be our guy when you, the mad like Weghorst has played. Weghorst played like a good few more games than him, and I think
Weghorst is above the 20 mark when it comes to appearances, which is like.
Well, he started 20 in a row, didn't he? That was his 19.
Yeah,
exactly. I think he's 2 and 25.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the old Weghorst project? You think it's time for it to come to the end at the end of the season?
In a word, yes. I don't think it's worked with the numbers. I think, he's given us what the other two, Ronaldo and Martial, when Martial's played, hasn't given us in terms of a press from the front, which is great. But when he gets the ball, which isn't often, it doesn't stick to him. He quite often lays it off first time or loses the ball. He can't win a header. And he's not particularly quick. His balance, if he gets a little shunt by a defender, he goes 10 yards, which for a 6'6" lad is I've never really heard of that before. So yeah, his application is brilliant. He clearly wants to be there. I think he's admitted that it's above his level, but it was a free transfer in a time when we could only have a free transfer, and I mean the £2 million loan fee. But yeah, it was one out of maybe three players we could potentially have got, and it's not worked.
One thing that really not surprised me, but it's so interesting sometimes how Ten Hag kind of fits the players in, plays in all these different positions. Like, I think it was Barca away, played him in midfield, didn't he? I couldn't quite work out exactly where he was.
We went to the new camp and played Wout Weghorst as a 10 and got a 2-2 draw. But I do think from when he joined until we won the League Cup, everything was going our way. Like, we just were winning, and everything was bar Casemiro getting sent off like every game, but everything was ticking along nicely. That it was kind of like, I feel like we can carry you a bit because everyone else is in top form. But since there's been a bit of a drop off, and it's picked up recently, but it's kind of coincided with him coming out of the team. And I think what Stephen was saying there, the opposite of Ronaldo Martial in terms of the press. He's the opposite of Martial in terms of the availability, but then also he's almost like the complete opposite of Ronaldo last season, as in he presses, but there's no goals. Whereas Ronaldo was no pressing, but he still would score. So I'd say he's great to play with, but again, back to the rootlessness thing. Like, if United want to get back to challenge for league titles, you can't be carrying lads like that. And yeah, if we went into next season with the same front line, it's kind of not a miracle that we're third, but the goal, we scored so few goals. We scored 46, 47. So I think it's time just to pack them in. But then you're kind of do we need two strikers in the summer? It's just hard. Who knows what the budget's going to be like as well.
It was like Stephen was saying, though, in terms of application and drive, if we had 11 Weghorsts in terms of just the amount of commitment and running around he does, I mean, it would help. But yeah, when it comes to technical ability, that definitely is his kind of letdown. But you can tell one thing I do like about him, and obviously I don't think he's going to stay either long term. He's not part of the project. He does seem like he's having the best. He's living his best life at the moment. And when he scored in front of the Stretford end, it was like him scoring in a cup final. And everyone's behind the goal at Wembley, but I was lower down in the block behind the goal, and he just wouldn't let go of that Carabao Cup when we won it. He literally was just it was like he won the Champions League.
It's the peak of his career, and it's brilliant for him that he's got the chance. I think he grew up watching United, and I mean a lot of people in Holland do. But he's clearly tried to grasp it. It's not quite gone his way, but it is quite nice the way that the fans have taken to him in terms of his application as well, particularly earlier on. Maybe not so much in the last 5 or 6 games, but as you were saying before, Peter, everything was going our way, and he tries dead hard. And then it was almost like, everyone just egging on Diego Forlan to score, because he went about 25 games without scoring as well, didn't he? And it was just almost like a drum roll until he actually did. And then, at the Stratford end, it was difficult.
The game, I've never seen. Yeah, it's mad. Because Forlan's career outside of United was incredible. But the funny thing, I think it was the Leicester game. We were 3 up, and it was like pass the ball to Weghorst, like give him a shot, get him involved. But
Get his confidence up as well.
I've never seen it. Like, it is a little bit like you're saying, like kind of like, oh, he's living his best life. It's like when we got a Gallo on loan. Again, like it was like, well, we have no money, or like we can't sign anyone, so we're almost bringing in a fan, kind of like give them a run, see what they can do. But
at least they'll try.
I've never seen, like, like the saying, like, oh, he's a yard off it. I've never a striker. Weghorst is the definition of that, because the amount of times, like, he's like, if you move half a second quicker, you're getting a free header, or he misses the ball by so close so often. And like, even like that Barcelona away game, during the first half, he got like the 1-on-1, and he just it was like a horse falling down. Like, he didn't know.
Terrible.
He like stopped. He couldn't run and keep the ball and his composure. But like you said, like,
I guess talking about strikers, then I've given a lot of airtime to Weghorst, actually. I think just because there's pure love for United, but yeah, they're talking about strikers. Then I think obviously Martial's going to go in the summer. Weghorst isn't going to stick around. We've got Rashford. I mean, who do you think, and how many do you think strikers need to come in, and what caliber of strikers would you think kind of will fit in and get us to kind of challenging to trophies again? I mean, Stephen, what do you think?
Well, first of all, you're right. We need 2 strikers. We do. Ideally 3. But question number 1 is, how much money are we going to have? Well, in fact, question number 1 is, who's going to be in charge of the club? Who's going to own the club? And that's a whole different conversation. If we have maybe a couple of 100 million, are we going to go for a blockbuster striker when we need a centre mid? Are we going to go for someone like Evan Ferguson, who's been touted, but he's played 20 games for Brighton this season. In his first season, he scored 7 or 8 goals. He's been playing really well, and I'd be happy to get him as an understudy to Harry Kane, for example. The names that have been linked to United, you've got Kane, Osimhen, that Gonçalo Ramos from Benfica again. Yeah, plays in Portugal. He's done all right this season. Apparently, I've not seen him play. Scored a lot of the World Cup, but they say you shouldn't make signings based on international tournaments. Harry Kane for me would be the one to go for, but how much are Tottenham going to let him go for? If it's going to be 100 million, is that too much for a 30-year-old? But he'll score you 20 goals, 25 goals a season, and potentially guide you towards that second, maybe first place. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I know Kane is the one that's been talked about for quite a bit of time, and like just following the socials, I think there's a following which thinks that he's the solution, and then others which don't. So what side of the fence are you on, Peter? What do you think about potentially Kane coming in?
Like, there's no doubt he'd be quality. Like, he's the most, like, of the players we can sign, like, he's an absolute guarantee of goals. There's no doubt he'd come and bang in 2025. And also, like, the link of play would be great with Rashford. He just would, I think he'd be great. But like Stephen was saying, like, he's 30, 100 million. Do you want to do a 3-month saga with Spurs? And I think dealing with Spurs just not worth it. And then also his brother being the agent he seems to have no sway, so you can't see that. It will take a long time to get him and probably a lot of money. And then the other fear is kind of, when you look at our team, like our best players. So Varane is 30, or 30 like this month, I think. Casemiro is 31, Eriksen's 31, Bruno's 29, and that's Kane 30. So you're kind of like, you're almost going towards like what Liverpool are at now, like where like Van Dijk, Henderson, Salah, all these guys are kind of approaching the same age, and you don't want like the collective fall off. Whereas like 2 summers were like, geez, we need to replace the whole spine. And I won't even mention De Gea because I'm just hoping he's not with us next season, but I think he will. I think like the Evan Ferguson thing, like obviously as an Irishman, like it'd be amazing if we had another like for both. Like, he is really good from what we've seen, and like he's been touted for a long time. So it'd be great for Ireland to have a top player at a top club again. But like he's like, I think he costs a lot of money, and I don't think he's ready. Like, it's a lot of pressure to put on like an 8. Yeah, like you kind of think like Rooney was that, but Rooney did have Van Nistelrooy, and then it was a bit different. Like, he had 2 seasons with Rooney before he kind of took over, and Rooney was like kind of like a once in a generation player anyway. But I don't think for Ferguson's own development, I don't think he couldn't go to United and be an understudy anyway, unless we'll buy him and Danny Welbeck in like a 2-for-1 deal, bring them home. But it's tough, like, because the Osimhen thing, Napoli again are a tough club to deal with, and again, like, obviously he looks really good, but we're not watching. You're not watching Serie A all the time. Like, you're kind of judging it off like reporters you do and so on. He does look really good. Ramos, like you said, buying from Port, like, it's just tough to like the transition and so on. So there's kind of pros and cons to all of them. But I kind of think with United's transfers, as long as Ten Hag gets the players he wants, I do trust what he's doing, and that kind of goes to Anthony as well. Like, I'm kind of like, he's a bit iffy here and there, but the fact that Ten Hag wanted him so badly suggests that he knows what he's doing. So, realistically, it depends. I don't know how much we'll have. We need striker, midfielder, and that's going to cost about 200 million as is. So, I don't know, really. Like, we'll see what happens. Probably have Martial up top again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully we'll get, I don't know, maybe even 15 million for Martial at the moment. It's kind of, I think, towards the top end. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm not sure about Kane. Kane will come in and he will get you goals, undoubtedly. But it's just the age thing for me. He's going to be definitely 100 million plus. There's no way Tottenham are going to let him go for any less, because he signed a 5-year deal only last year.
He has the
he's tied into a pretty long contract. So
I think he only has the year left in his deal now, because he signed the 6-year one. Do you remember when City tried to buy him 2 years ago and Levy was like, there's 3 years left in his deal, he's not getting out. So there's only a year on his deal now. And it's kind of like,
I might be wrong.
No, I thought it was 2024 when his contract comes up. So if there's any sort of shining light of hope in the deal, he could go up and say, you know what, I'm going to leave. Do you want it to be for 80 million this year or for nothing next year?
Yeah. But even, I don't know, it's Daniel Levy is just one of those guys, right? He's just going to make it as difficult as possible, and he's not going to let him go, for kind of a discounted kind of price, or he won't do how we do business. Basically, like, United will end up fretting whenever someone's a year left on his contract, and will sell him for a discount of like 20-30 million. Levy is really shrewd. And also it's about how he would fit for me into the team, because at the moment Rashford's doing great, but he's doing great. Benefit to have a player that's interchangeable with Rashford, because if Kane comes in as an out-and-out striker, I don't think he can't play on the wing, right? It's not like in the middle of a game he can switch between where he's playing and Rashford's playing. And that's the other point. I think he might just take the shine off the great work that Rashford's been doing kind of this season, because he has got most of his goals when he's been playing up top. Again, just not 100% sure on Kane. Like Stephen was saying, the main thing is who's going to be in charge of the club, how much money we're going to have, and hopefully we'll hope we do get new owners. Needs in regards to the backing of the players that he wants, rather than players that they is Tony. I know he's got some issues at the moment off the pitch with his he's been charged obviously with that betting thing, which wasn't ideal. But as a football player, I think he's really well rounded. English as well, so I know there'll be a bit of a premium. But I think just with he's again, I think he's scored close to like 20 Premier League goals there or thereabouts, and he scores all types of goals. He'll score you headers, he scores free kicks, he presses from the front because Thomas Frank plays in a similar way, and I think that would be a great option because again, even though Tony's not a winger as such, I think there would be more flexibility for him to be able to play potentially outside of being an out-and-out striker, and him to fit the team. So I don't know, what do you guys think of Tony? Do you see him as a potential buy in the summer?
Yeah, I sorry, just back to the Kane thing. Actually, I think like with the Kane and Rashford, I think you just look at Kane and Son. Like Son's a left-sided player, and he's at the best. He's top scorer of the Premier League with Kane up top. So I think like Kane does drop deep. So like it would mean you have the Rashfords, the Anthony's, Sancho's, whatever could make like the runs in behind. And even like the fact Kane and Eriksen played together for so long, there's another like I think he just come in and he instantly fit in. I don't even think there'd even be that much of an adjustment. I think he's one of those players who can kind of just fit into any team. So I think Rashford would almost get more shine with Kane there because at the moment, like all the attention's on Rashford. Like you'd almost be doubling up on him because Weghorst in the middle. So like I think if you had Kane there, you're kind of Rashford's getting more space, he's getting less attention, and could get more goals and assists. But on Tony, yeah, like I literally agree with everything you said there. Like I love him. I think he's great, but and he has like his mentality and his attitude and so on. I think he knows, like he really backs himself, and it really is the question of like how long is he be banned for. But I'd kind of love we kind of love a damaged goods player like Cantona. He's got banned. Rio Ferdinand's been banned playing for us, so it would be just our luck that we'd sign him with like alleged assurances that he wasn't getting banned. We'd sign him, and then he'd be banned for 4 months to start with. But I definitely take him if we need to be creative in the market. And like I said, like if we're signing like it's going to cost a lot of money to get a top class midfielder and a top class striker. So I wouldn't mind just being a little bit creative, and as opposed to just going for like the star name, because that's all we've done for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an option.
With little success.
Oh God,
the commercial names and the commercial signings history it's just not gone down well. So will Kane, if we go for him, be the one to break that curse? Maybe he might be, but going those maybe not absolute elite strikers, Tony could absolutely fit into the mid to top range. Premier League proven, over someone like potentially like Jonathan David in France at the moment, playing for Lille, who's obviously scored a lot of goals this year. But adjusting to the Premier League, are we gonna need a striker who can come in and score goals, fire away straight away? At the moment, it doesn't really seem like we can afford to buy many players who need to adapt. Anthony is obviously taken a little bit of time. He seems to be getting it a lot more now. Sancho hasn't adapted, nearly 2 years. So for me, he could be potentially one to be on the pile to maybe not move on this year, but at the end of next year, if he's still not kicked on, then he could potentially be on the move after what looked like the best signing we've made in years. So even Tony, top Premier League proven striker who will score 18, 20, 25 goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just a name I put in there just because, again, following the socials, he doesn't really pop up too often. And maybe it is because of his allegations, but you never know if he does have a little kind of break from the game because of all these things. We might get him for a bit of.
Yeah, I think with the socials thing as well, like it is like social media in one. Like, it is all like the star players, the star names. Let's win the transfer market, and like that's never worked for us in the last 10 years. And you look at Chelsea now, so I don't mind us picking up. Like I said, like back Ten Hag, and hopefully the recruitment team is a bit better this summer. But finding players in, maybe don't just shop in Holland, but like use other countries. Like there is players out there. It does, like, look what Brighton do, and look at the players they're finding. It seems to be like a lot of lazy recruitment with a lot of big clubs these days. Like you kind of see like Chelsea are just buying players because Arsenal are linked with them, or like it's just like, oh, he's the new kid in the block, whatever. So yeah, like I think the star player thing doesn't really need to happen, but yeah, it's just getting someone that can, like, availability number one. Like we need a guy who can just play all the time, and then just someone who can get like your 20 league goals, kind of like a guarantee. Because I know Rashford's been great this season, but I don't know. Like, let's see. Let's hope he stays with it. Like, but we do need someone who's just guaranteed goals, because their second top scorer is like 5 league goals this season. So like we are, it's mad like that we're in the position we are with the lack of goals we have in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the clean sheets have actually gone under the radar. Obviously, we all like to slate De Gea when it comes to it. Me and my brother call it the De Gea tax. Every time he kicks a ball straight to their attacker. But 13 or 14 clean sheets this season has played a role in where we are. Obviously, that owes a lot to the new players that we've got in the defence. Casemiro coming in, giving that shield. Martinez, absolute world class, up there with me. For me, one of the best players, potentially that we've signed in the last 10 years. Luke Shaw has been brilliant. Dalot started the season really well. Wan-Bissaka has been playing far and above what I thought he was going to play like for the last, since the World Cup. And then Varane is Varane. He's an absolute monster, but he's made out of glass. But yeah, the clean sheets have definitely really helped. And if we can get a little bit more stability in those players who can potentially come in, Harry Maguire is a conversation. That's a half an hour conversation. Lindelof has played, quite well recently when he's coming in deputised. Malacia has his moments, but that Sevilla was an absolute nightmare. But he's been quite good for a £12 million signing, and those are the kind of players that you need to flesh out that squad when you really don't have much depth. So if we can get a good top young player to come in, potentially if Maguire moves on, I mean, maybe I was thinking that Mark Gahey from Palace looks like a great young English centre back who could definitely come in and play on that right hand side.
Yeah, I think the right sided centre back. It's just like you said, like Varane's made of glass. Yeah. So you need someone who can like adequately deputise. And just like briefly on Maguire, I think everyone knows that he's going to leave in the summer, and he needs to leave for his own sake because he's not playing at all. And it's just not helpful having. It's about time we had a club captain who actually starts, because we haven't had one since like Rooney probably. So I think it's important for his own career as well. Like, he obviously has the Euros next summer, and it just is a constant talking point, and it's a distraction. And it is always like, oh, Harry Maguire's not playing. He's not, like, he's in and out, whatever. And I think we could probably get a decent fee for him off someone, because he still has the cachet of like England starter, go to the World Cup, Euros, and so on. But I think for all parties, probably good time to move on. And yeah, like Lindelof, yeah, he's just maybe he's happier to be a sub, because his position with Sweden is pretty guaranteed. Like, he's always going to play for them. So yeah, I think the right-sided centre back. I don't think we'll end up signing a right back this summer. We might buy Timber from Ajax. We're linked a lot, and he can kind of cover both positions. But yeah, it just is like we need a lot of players, maybe 4 or 5, but they're all going to cost a lot of money. So it's kind of picking like what do we desperately need this summer. I think that's a striker, and then probably the midfielder, and then I think De Gea will stay. but that'll be more because we don't have enough money to replace him, because he doesn't suit the way Ten Hag wants to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, in regards to what we use, even the guys here that have joined. Got
Sorry,
players on the wing, like, Pellistri,
Joys of live podcasting.
like Garnacho. Those kind of players are perfect. That should be coming through over the next few years. Garnacho, I mean, has been a massive standout, I think, for us. He wasn't expected to have that kind of impact. I mean, games against City at home, against Barca, he literally, City especially, he turned that game around, and being 1-0 down, I didn't think that we'd be able to win that game. So I think on the wings we should be covered, especially with Antony hopefully developing. I think another big question mark we haven't spoke about is actually Sancho as well. Like, I mean, I don't think he was the best yesterday. Going forward, I think he was the slight opposite to Antony in terms of putting his foot on the ball and maybe slowing things down rather than taking on defenders. I know that was just my personal take. I'll be honest, I haven't seen the game back again, so it's just from what I could see from the ground. So, but even still, I think the wings are covered, but in the middle, scoring goals is kind of the key. And I think having the strength and depth is going to be key as well. And I think, what you guys were kind of getting at is having, to have the squad, we need to have the first team, but then we also need to have the players which are happy to be the rotation squad players that are able to come in and do a job. Because at the moment, I think we've got 11 guys out. I've got a list here. I've got Rashford, Van de Beek, Malacia, Shaw, Varane, Martinez, Garnacho, Tomine, Sabitzer, and our long-serving Phil Jones, who I don't know how is still on the books. But, I mean, bar Phil Jones, those are all players which are pretty crucial to sort of that's a first-team lineup pretty much there.
I think that's more or less it. It's one of the few lineups that Van de Beek has made this season. I don't think.
yeah.
I thought he was like, when we got him, I thought it was a good signing, but I don't think it was planned, because I think we were supposed to buy Grealish, then Villa stayed up. It just hasn't adapted, and obviously got injured, but it just doesn't really feel like he has a place with United. And he won't be able to. I don't think we'll be able to sell him in the summer because he's injured, like a long-term injury. But I think the bet, like, we've depth in some positions, like you said. Like, I think we're pretty covered on the wings, and on like Sancho, you just want Sancho to kind of just like, I'm going to run out a player, I'm going to take someone on, I'm just going to go at them. He tries to he's a very intricate player. Like, he wants to link up with the fullback and so on. Kind of tries to play football like the right way, as opposed to like, I'm just going to take you, like the way Garnacho plays is like, I'm going to run through you or run around you. So he kind of wanted to back himself a little bit more, have a bit more kind of arrogance to his game. But some other, we're decent there, but there's some other positions that it feels like when one player, like Casemiro, like when we've we need to sign. That's why I think like midfield, if we're buying one midfielder, it kind of needs to be someone who can play alongside him, but also can replace him. So like Caicedo off Brighton maybe, or I think Rice will cost too much, and I don't know if he's like the right player we need, but someone who can actually take Casemiro's position, but also can play beside him. Because the drop off there
on a permanent deal, you think we should try and sign him permanently, or you think you're happy for him to go?
I think that for the fees that are you're seeing in the media, 15 to 20 million, I think if we have the money to spend on a few squad players, I think that kind of money is a good amount for a player of his experience and quality. He runs all game. He's technically very good, both feet. He's a little bit more defensive than Eriksen, which helps. But those kind of players, the Premier League proven players, look at Ruben Neves from Wolves. He's not going to set the world alight. He's not going to be the absolute star of the show, but he can play in a double pivot. He could sit in that six, as the deep lying playmaker, and maybe not the absolute enforcer, but he'd be a really good option for maybe a mid-range kind of 50, 60 million, depending on if he wants to leave. I can see in one of the comments, James Ward-Prowse. He would be he's a good experienced Premier League player. He scored a lot of set pieces, both penalties and free kicks. He's great from corners. He can dictate the play. Does he have the physicality to play for United? If the squad's rotating and say he's playing alongside Eriksen, between them two, I don't think they've got the mobility to cover the pitch. It's similar to Van der Beek. He might be quite good technically, but is he going to be able to do the running? I think if you're looking at Southampton, Romeo Lavia looks like a bit of a player. Obviously, he's just come in this season for a relatively low fee. Who if they get relegated, could potentially go for another low fee. Obviously young with potential. He's come from City, so I think they've got a buyback option on him actually. But if they don't want to go for that, then that could be a really good deputy for Casemiro. And as you say, Casemiro, maybe 3 years we might look at, or 2 years we might look at replacing him. At that age, 20 years old, to become a 21, 22, 23-year-old player is a perfect time to come in one of those positions to be a starter for a top club. So. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree. I think this transfer window is going to be really important because for the first time in a long time, our first team, I think, has got a core structure and quite a bit of stability. Like in the Fergie era, I always thought it kind of was seamless. Like you'd have the experienced guys that were doing it week in, week out. Then you had the younger guys that were coming through, learning off the more experienced ones, and then as they got older and they were leaving the team, moving on, the younger guys just came in, and it was just a seamless process. So now that we have that structure, I think maybe, like we were saying, as a striker, maybe we need to get someone with a bit of experience there. But as you mentioned, in midfield, if we can pick up a couple of guys who can be squad players that can kind of grow into these roles, I think it would be really, really good for us, and we can really build something special. But yeah, kind of getting close to wrapping things up now. Not got too much time left. I wanted to just talk about the next few games. Obviously, the big one coming up on Thursday. Shouldn't have been as close as it is in terms of a tie, being 2-0 up. But hey ho, it is what it is. But what do you think away at Seville, Peter? What do you think our chances are there?
I think, like you said, we should have, that tie should have been out of sight. We should go in there 4 or 5-0 up. But they weren't great last week. They did make 7 changes, so they won last night against Valencia, so they're kind of safe now. So maybe they'll go full strength. But even at full strength, they're not a great side. And it's a case of, can United play there's going to be a big atmosphere. Can they play that to take over the game? And hopefully Shaw is back in, because I feel a lot more comfortable with Shaw at centre back in terms of even for starting plays and so on. He kind of is the closest we have to Martinez. Bruno out isn't ideal, but the fact that Eriksen got 70 minutes into him should be good. I don't know if Savitzer will be fit, maybe play Fred. But realistically, it's just on United, just step up and win it. At the end of the day, it is a Europa League quarter-final, and we should be able to win that. So, yeah, it'd be a shame, because I think the Europa League it's right there to be won anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like we should be the favourites to win that competition. But yeah, on Thursday, all we need to do is get the result. It's lovely to play great football and the performance to be brilliant and really eye-catching. But when it's a European quarterfinal, you just want to get through, especially after the disaster of last Thursday. Dreadful luck, terrible, 2 deflections. Keeper couldn't do anything about either of them, unfortunately. But as Peter said, we should have been 4 or 5 up. We should be playing our second string in every position in this game. Resting for the Brighton game on Sunday. But we just need to go and be dirty and gritty and get a goal early on, hopefully, and then just play the game. They just won the game. We just need to win the game.
Yeah, I think I have a feel. I think he said Rashford might be back.
With Brighton coming up. Sorry, I was just going to say with Brighton coming up on Sunday, they're not going to be any pushovers, right? I mean, Brighton are playing really well. Mitoma's kind of taking over the league. They obviously got McAllister in there, some really good players. So it's going to be tough because we're going to have to play the kind of best players that we have over those 2 games. And Peter, were you going to mention something about Rashford and when potentially he was going to be back?
I was going to say, I think they played it really vague when he's coming back. So Ten Hag was like, he could be back for the Sevilla second leg. I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the bench, kind of like break in case of emergency. If we need a goal, bring him on. Mm-hmm. And then, I think he will play Rashford against Brighton if he's even 80% fit because it's semi-final and so on. But that game, I don't know. There's the fear of obviously City winning the treble, but there's a little bit of the fear of FA Cup final getting battered by City there, which could easily happen. But at the same time, you want to be in a final. So hopefully, Brighton have, United have won at Wembley already this season. We've won the Carabao Cup final there, so there should be no they shouldn't be daunted by it. It should be more like Brighton. Maybe I don't know when the last time Brighton were in a semi-final. So United have enough big game players, and they should be able to win those 2 games over the space of 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, but it's relentless as well. I mean, I was looking at the fixtures. I've got them up here. We got Seville on Thursday, Brighton on Sunday, Spurs next Thursday, Villa next Sunday, Brighton again the Thursday after that, and then West Ham the Sunday after that. So, I mean, with all of those players out, we'd really hope that some of them come back. Obviously, Martinez is a write-off till the end of the season. But now I think we're really going to be tested over the next few weeks. And the good thing is that we'll be able to talk about it every single Monday, and we'll see how we get on. So
exactly.
We'll either be happy campers next Monday, or might be drowning our sorrows after loss at Wembley. Are you heading down, Stephen?
No, unfortunately not. I'll be watching from the comfort of my home.
Good stuff. Good. How about yourself, Peter? Are you going to be heading down?
I won't be heading. I'll be in London, but I don't have 400 quid to spare on a ticket. So I might watch it near the ground, but I'm go. Yeah, I will.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'm lucky enough to have a ticket. So we'll see what happens in the flesh, and most probably my voice will be as croaky as it is today. I blame that on all the singing I was trying to do yesterday. Well, look, guys, really, really, really happy with the pod today. Thank you so much for coming on. Really looking forward to this being a fixture every Monday night, and it was great to catch up and talk about all the points on United. Just for everyone that's listening in, all of us have pages on Twitter. I myself head up a page called Fan Owned United. Reason why I set it up was, again, just going to games, putting up little video content and stuff. Just thought it's good for fans and the wider fan base that don't get to go, and just talking about general issues that affect season ticket holders as well. Most of the time, I'm just grumpy that I don't get away tickets in the Premier League, like I mentioned at the beginning. But and these guys also have their own pages. You want to do a little plug on your pages, guys?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Actually, a freelance football writer, so I think it's at P Fitzpatrick 23. If you want to add to my 300 or so follows, so yeah, feel free to.
I'm not too far behind you there, Peter. I've got, I think it's in the 200s, so so not too many.
Stuff here.
Yeah, mine is S Copping, and that's COPPING 117, which is my seat number at United. So, yeah, I'll be tweeting mostly about United, both highs and lows. A lot of moaning and also a lot of cheering. So yeah, thanks for having us, Harry.
No worries at all. It was a pleasure. And yeah, look forward to next week. Yeah, take care of yourself, guys.
See you later.
See you, fellas. Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.